Facing a denial for your VA loan can be super confusing and frustrating, I know. But let's take a look at maybe some of the real reasons why your loan was denied and what you can do about it. So let's take a look at some reasons why you may have received a denial. There's a few things that come up specifically when it comes to VA loans, and there's a few things that actually don't come up enough, whether it's a VA loan or any other loan for that matter. Let's just start first and foremost with your credit history, because it's a significant role in your actual loan approval, and a poor credit score may have been a determining factor. Now, one thing about VA to keep in mind, and I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, is that VA actually does not have a credit score requirement, okay? The lender is the one who has the credit score requirement, not the VA. Lenders are gonna look at your credit worthiness based on factors such as your payment history, outstanding debts, credit utilization, and if your credit report reflects late payments, high debt level, or a history of financial difficulty, is going to affect your loan eligibility. Now, credit utilization is a huge one. I'm going to talk about that in a different video because that's one of those factors that don't get talked about as much. Again, credit utilization. One of the other things that may have impacted your qualification may have been just insufficient income documentation. That is another reason why loans get denied. The lenders actually have to verify your ability to repay a loan. Now, just because we're veterans does not mean we get a pass when it comes to debt to income ratios, right? We still have to have the ability to repay the loan. Whether you have a down payment or not is irrelevant, all right? That's just a benefit of the VA loan. But debt to income ratios and having the ability to pay or repay the loan is huge, right? That's one of the main things that lenders are going to look at. So if you don't have sufficient income, then they're going to deem that you're just too risky, right? It's too high of a risk to loan you money, to loan me money as a veteran and expect to get that money repaid. That's really what it comes down to. Everything comes down to risk when it comes to a mortgage loan. You want to make sure you have complete and accurate financial documentation. This is super huge, including your pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, just to make sure you can establish some financial stability. Now, sometimes, depending on credit, you actually may not need tax returns, right? So it's going to depend on the lender. It's going to depend on whether or not you can get an automated underwriting approval or if it has to be a manual. Again, different video, but manual underwriting is more difficult and more risky. However, the company that I work for, we do it all the time. It's actually one of the things we specialize in is a manual underwrite, okay? But most lenders are going to just go through their automated underwriting system. And if you don't get approved through the automated system, sometimes with most lenders, it's going to be very difficult for you to get approved at all. Again, the lender I work with, we do manual underwrites almost exclusively, quite honestly. We do a lot of those. So if you got questions, hit me up. Okay, so the next thing that may be affecting your loan could be the appraisal. Okay, so appraisal discrepancies can also lead to a lot of loan denial. So what do I mean by that? Well, if the appraised value of the property falls short of the loan amount, you're gonna have an issue, right? If the property has significant issues, then the lender may decline your loan. Now, VA is pretty strict when it comes to property and how the property needs to be working, essentially, right? So you don't really want to have a fixer-upper and try and get a VA loan. It doesn't always work. They want the property to be in livable conditions. So there are some things, and what I'll probably do is link up in the show notes. I'll link up in below a list of items that the VA commonly looks at and why it may contribute to your loan being denied because of the appraisal. But just understand, if the value comes in short, you can't get a loan for that amount. So now you're gonna have to go back and renegotiate with the seller. Maybe the seller comes down on price, maybe you come down. There's a number of ways that you can go about bridging the gap between what the actual appraised value is versus what the sale price is. So we need to bridge that gap some kind of way. Again, it could be you coming up or coming down and then the appraisal and then kind of meeting center. There's a couple different ways you can go about fixing a low appraisal, essentially. You could also go back to a VA lender and say, hey, can you use these comps? Maybe the appraisal missed a few comps, or maybe they're using comps that the realtor doesn't doesn't think they should be used. So you can go back and try and essentially correct the appraisal in the sense that you're asking the appraiser to reconsider some other properties when they do their appraisal. You could do that. A lot of times the reality is these VA appraisers, when they make up their mind, it's hard to get their minds to change oftentimes, right? It's not impossible, but it's very challenging to get them to go back and change the appraisal. So one of the things that may be affecting your loan and getting you a denial is the time that you served in the military. Now, there is a minimum required time in the military, and you also have to have a valid certificate of eligibility, or COE as we like to call it in the industry. So if you don't have a valid COE that says I was honorably discharged specifically, right? Because if you were dishonorably discharged, you are probably not going to qualify for the VA. Super important that you get the COE. Me as a loan officer, when I'm working with clients, the first thing I want is the certificate of eligibility. Now, if you don't have that, it's okay. We can get it as a lender, but we want to make sure you can actually use the VA loan. Just because you served does not make you immediately eligible for it, right? We have to get the certificate of eligibility to tell us this person can use the VA and how much of the VA entitlement you actually have available, okay? So I'm going to get into a title bit on a different video, but just understand you have to have a valid certificate of eligibility. And if the lender you are working with does not request that up front, you need to be very leery, guys, because you do not want to go through the process of getting a home under contract, getting emotionally involved with this home, and then your lender did not order the certificate of eligibility in the beginning, only to find out later in the process that either you don't qualify or you don't have enough entitlement to be able to get a home with no money down. Okay, so this is very, very important, and probably the very first thing you should be doing. If you're not getting the certificate of eligibility, that lender absolutely should be getting your certificate of eligibility. Couple things to consider, right? Improving credit, providing additional income, maybe exploring some alternative lending options is another way to possibly get approved for a loan. Now, we want VA loans. If you're eligible, you absolutely want a VA loan. There are certain situations that might come up that might keep you from going VA. It doesn't happen very often, but there are sometimes things that come up that might dictate us going a different direction with your loan. But ultimately, the VA loan, without question, is the absolute best mortgage loan available, right? You just have to be a veteran that has been honorably discharged in order to get the VA loan. Okay, so hopefully you found some value in this video, guys. This will help you avoid being denied for your VA loan, which you absolutely deserve. But this is just a piece of what you need to know. What you need to do is go take a look at this next video over here. It's going to continue to get you some more information on VA, the benefits and things that you can do to improve your chances of getting approved for that VA loan. I'm James J. I'm going to see you over there.